everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney and I have a tutorial for you today. So I am currently doing some daily vlogs. It is currently 2020 as if you're watching this later, and we are in the midst of the corona pandemic. Coming out of it, I think. I don't know. But anyway, I have been doing daily vlogs, and I had shown how to do a petite adjustment on a pattern that had a sleeve, and it had such a good response, but kind of got lost in all the other daily vlogs that I thought I would make a video showing you how to do a petite adjustment on a bodice. So it is, if you are short from here, I explain it more in the video, but if you are short in this vicinity, I'm only 5'2". I'm short everywhere, but definitely even if you're taller and you have a short torso. So it's all about shortening here at the arm's eye, what you do with the sleeve to shorten, to make everything still fit, and then again through the back. So that is what I'm showing you today. If you have enjoyed this content, if this is something that's been helpful and you are so inclined, I do have a Ko-fi account set up. There's a link down in the description box below where I accept tips. Basically you buying me a coffee if you, I mean, again, no pressure, but if you're so inclined, it does help support the channel, and anything that I do bring in on that account does go right back into the channel in regards to raw materials, supplies, filming equipment, editing, all that kind of stuff that I use in order to create the content. So yeah, that's down in the description box below. But I hope that this tutorial makes sense. If you have any questions at all, leave it down below and I will answer those as soon as possible. I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope this is helpful, and I'll see you all next time. Bye. All right, so we're going to talk about petite adjustments. Disregard the darts on this dress. I realize that they need work. I just did not go back and fix them because I've got some bigger issues, some bigger fish to fry here. Okay, so yeah, sorry about those. Just disregard. Those are very easy to go back in and fix, but I'm not going to because there's other issues. Okay, so I have made this dress. This is the waistband of the dress here. I was playing with stripes on this dress. So this is my natural waist is right here. So the dress is sitting, the skirt of the dress is sitting right on my natural waist, which is usually about 1/4 of an inch above your belly button. Typically, it's right where you bend when you go back and forth. So this is sitting right on my natural waist. Now, you see this? So I've got gaping here. Now I've done a full bust adjustment on this dress, which a full bust adjustment will bring your apex down and to the right, because you need that usually. You've got a longer distance to travel to your apex because you have a larger bust. So that being said, if I pull this dress down to where this is lying flat through here, you will notice, number one, how tight this is across the chest, and we'll talk about that in a second. But number two, look at all this extra fabric. Now, people would say, can you just take the skirt off and move that down and take that excess out? Well, you could, but let's talk about why this is so tight across the top. So if you think about a bodice and the way that it is drafted, you've got, you know, the upper bust, which is where the straight part of the arm's eye is, and then your arm's eye curves out, and then you're at your side seam where the bust needs to fit. I am only 5'2", so I am short through here. Now, because I have a large bust, this measurement from my shoulder point to my apex can be very deceiving because it does usually have to travel to get to my apex because I do have a very large bust. But I'm only 5'2", so chances are, and not always, but a lot of times I need a petite adjustment. I can especially tell it in my back, because your back, you're not dealing with your bust, obviously. It's much flatter, which actually you can see I need it too. Look how baggy I am back there. It is, the dress is tight, and that's actually kind of a mystery, but that's the least of my worries. This bodice, I'm gonna have to do some crazy adjusting. Anyway, my apex is right up here, and as you can see, my bust darts are not even pointing anywhere close to my apex. There we go. I don't know why they look lopsided. They aren't. Well, maybe a little, but you know. Okay, so my darts are, especially the side dart, a little bit. So if I take the dress and pull the excess that was here up. All of a sudden, my boobs are sitting where they're supposed to in the dress because now the arm's eye is up and it's hitting my upper bust where it's supposed to. And my bust now fits into the dress so much better. I mean, there's a little bit of extra here, but you need that just for movement. I mean, it's not going to be completely flat. Again, the skirt's sitting on my natural waist, but you're going to say, oh my gosh, look at that issue. This means I need a petite adjustment. So I'm going to show you how to do that, but first you need to figure out how much of a petite adjustment you need. And again, if you are short, if you're 5'3" or below, there's a good chance you will need a petite adjustment in your clothes. Now, this is not to say that you can't be taller than that and need a petite adjustment. If you have a short torso, which you probably know just by even looking at yourself in the mirror, that proportionately, maybe you have most of your height is in your legs. I mean, my sister is 5'6", but she has an inseam, a leg inseam of like someone that's 5'11" or 6 feet tall. So she carries all of her height in her legs, and she has a short torso, where she's not as busty as I am, but we're very similar in the torso area, and I'm only 5'2". I tell you, genetics are not fair. So what you're gonna do, ideally, this would have all been figured out in a muslin. So do as I say, not as I do. I should have done a muslin. But now my darts are pointing right where they should at my apex. You know, if you were to converge those two dart points right at my apex, again, my darts need a little work, but that's a different story for a different day. So I'm going to pinch out this excess here. Gonna pinch out this excess, and I'm gonna poke myself in the face, and then I'm gonna pin it. It's always so much easier to pin others than to pin yourself. And I would also like to say there is a chance that this neckline, it's a V-neck, got stretched out a little bit. So I'm pinning it all the way across. So if it looks like a dart needs to be taken out of that, it's probably less of a dart and more that this just got stretched out a little bit. So yeah, I'm really more concerned with the area right by my sleeve, the arm's eye. Okay, there we have it. So now you can see a difference in how much better this side fits than this side. Unfortunately, this is a really hard thing to fix after the fact because you need to reduce the pattern. Now I could put it, I mean, I don't know how I'm gonna fix this dress yet, but I just wanted to show you the issue and why that is happening. Again, this is tight around here, not the issue we're talking about right now. So you will see this part, and I'm now going to take off the dress and I'm going to measure what this pleat is basically. So obviously you're going to measure from the pin up to the fold and then double it because it's, you know, taken out both sides. And that's going to be how I determine how much of a petite adjustment I need. Now this is going to affect the sleeve and the back. So now I'm going to take you over to the cutting table and we're going to look at the pattern and I'm going to show you how to do that petite adjustment, and this works on any pattern. So if you're making something with a sleeve, like this one is, or obviously if you're making it sleeveless, you're just gonna make the adjustment on the front and the back and then it's solved. I know a lot of people, another way to tell if you might need a petite adjustment, if you often, especially on sleeveless or like camisoles, have to take quite a bit up at the shoulder seam, if that is a alteration on ready to wear that you often need, you probably need a petite adjustment. And this is just a much better way to do that. Okay, so I'm gonna take the dress off and we're gonna go have a chat at the cutting table and we will look at the adjustments that we need to make there. But yeah, look at the difference. Okay. Okay, so for our adjustment, we need our back bodice, our front bodice, and our sleeve pattern. I'm going to set all three of these aside for a minute. So here's the dress that I have taken off, and here is the section here that I have pinned. So I'm going to measure from the pin up. And that is, I'm not going to be focusing as much here at the neckline because there is a chance that neckline stretched out a little bit. I'm actually more concerned about right here. And that's sitting right at about 5/8 of an inch. Well, that's 5/8 of an inch from here to the fold. And obviously you've got that on both sides. So you need to do double it basically. So that's 1.25 inches, which seems like a little bit. I think I'm probably just going to take out 1 inch. This is a linen that I'm working with, which does have a tendency to stretch and grow. So I'm just going to do 1 inch, I think. But yeah, you could take 1.25 inches because technically that is what I pinched out. But that's first how we determine the amount we need. Okay, so we will start with the front bodice piece. So first things first, and I think that we are in range here. I'm going to pick a spot on the bodice somewhere within the straight part of the armhole. Now, I've done a full bust adjustment on this pattern, so it does definitely just, you know, it makes a very tight armhole curve, which is what you need typically when you've got a larger bust. So we're just going to, you know, ignore that. But this is basically the straighter part of the arm. Now, this pattern, this is the Athena or AK Patterns Kimberly dress bodice, and it's just your standard 2-darted bodice that I've already done an FBA on, like I said, but she has an extra point here to help you when you're easing in your sleeve cap, and I think that's probably a good place to mark my line. So what I need to do first, let's gather my things, is I need to make sure I'm wanting to do a, make sure that my line is perpendicular to my grain line. So I'm actually going to draw, this is my grain line right here. I'm going to line my ruler up to my grain line and just make a line that goes all the way through my pattern. So this is parallel to my grain line. I'm going to go all the way up to the top. All right, so that line is parallel to my grain line. So now I'm going to make a line perpendicular to that, right there at that notch. That's a pretty good spot, but just really anywhere in the straight part. All right, so there is my line. Now I want to do, I'm taking out 1 inch. We want to stay away from the curve as much as possible. So I'm going to go above my line and I'm going to mark 1 inch. Okay. And you may not need this much. You may find that you need less. So basically what I'm going to do is just cut. It's also helpful to have this line run all the way through because then you have something to make sure you're lining it up properly. And I'm going to tape it. And actually, we've got a pretty good, it kind of goes seamlessly here on this side. Now, obviously, we have a jog here, so actually very simple. You can do one of two things. You can keep this as is and just kind of, well, I think that's gonna, yeah, I'm gonna add paper instead of take away, only because I am busty and I don't want it to be too cleavage-tastic. So I'm just going to add some paper. Now, if you did have a jog at the armhole, you would do the same thing just to true everything up. The important thing when truing up any lines is you want to keep your known points the same, which means this point down here and this point, this is the seam allowance up here. So basically this point here, we want to keep the same. So I'm just going to find a pleasing line, which is right there. Looks great. I mean, you could follow that curve a little more if you wanted. There we go. That looks good. All right, so then we're just going to draw that in. And then cut that. Oops, hitting the the tripod there. And there we go, just a little paper that is filled in there. So, and I'm actually going to go back here and just tape this down. That drives me nuts when that's flopping around. Always gets caught on fabric and yada, yada, yada. So there we have it. So we've just kind of trued up that neckline there, and now we've shortened, done a petite adjustment of 1 inch on the front bodice. All right, now we want to, I'm actually going to do the sleeve next. So we're going around the bodice basically. So on the sleeve, again, I took that inch right at that notch that was right there. And most patterns aren't going to have that notch there. And if they don't, just measure up from your armhole notch, you know, however much that distance is, to make it the same on your sleeve. But basically, because I've got that notch, I'm going to take that off at my notch. All right, so here's my sleeve pattern, and I am also, grain line, where's my ruler? Now I have done a full bicep adjustment here on this pattern piece, so my grain line's a little bit skewed on this. So I am just going to redraw in a new one here, which is basically just going right smack dab down the middle of where I've done the full bicep. But you could also just do it the way we did the front and have be it parallel to your grain line. Okay, now I've got my notches up here, and this is the notch that I was working with for the front. So I'm actually going to draw that line. Make sure it's all parallel. And actually on this one, I'm going to come down. Okay, so there's my 1 inch, only because I'm running out of room at the top of the sleeve cap. So I'm cutting that. Now you're going to see that this is going to make a much shorter sleeve cap. Now I've done a full bicep adjustment because my arm needs it. So I've already kind of flattened out that curve a little bit for that. This might not be the same for you. Because if I hadn't done a full bicep adjustment, this would be a taller, narrower sleeve cap. Okay, so you're going to notice a huge difference in the jog there. So what we're going to do is tape a piece of paper. And again, we're going with our known points. Which are the top of the sleeve cap, and then in this vicinity, definitely by your notches here. So now, this is where a French curve or one of these is an excellent tool to have in your box. Actually, I like that right there. So you're just wanting to keep it organic. So I'm starting here, so I'm away from my ruler here, but then it hits that ruler, and there we go. And it just goes seamlessly from that point into this curve here. And the same there. So you just want a nice gradual curve. And then cut away the extra paper. So now I've got a very short sleeve cap. But again, it got short because I did a full bicep adjustment. This is just what my body needs. Yours probably won't be quite this short. But I've taken out that 1 inch there. So now, I mean, that's a very short and flat curve. but I am going to do a muslin before I cut into any of this, just to make sure everything looks okay. All right, now I also, I'm at my back now. And just because of where everything fell, I'm also going to be taking my 1 inch here at the back. So just going to make a line once again, parallel. Actually, I'm just going to extend my grain line. That makes probably the best sense. So there we have that. And now we're making one perpendicular. And I'm going to go above because that's what I did on the front. I know I went below on the sleeve, but then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut. It doesn't really matter which one you cut, which line. And there. And that actually, again, I don't have to do any truing on this one, because the back is straight, because that's where the zipper goes. And there we have it. That is how you do a petite adjustment with a sleeve. So now that should fit me really well, and pull everything up where it needs to pull. Now again, this is a very short, flat sleeve cap. So we are going to look at that and see if that actually works. But I am going to make a muslin to make sure that that all fits, which you should definitely do as well. So if for some reason it didn't, again, my full bicep adjustment did make this even shorter and squattier. If for some reason it didn't, you can add some height here at the top, and then it's literally just kind of making it look nice. Yes, there is math and geometry when you're drafting a sleeve, but this sleeve's already been drafted, and you'd be surprised. It's just adding in a little bit of ease. So if this one does not fit in well, and if I think it looks funny, I probably will just raise the cap by, I don't know, maybe 5/8 of an inch, and then smooth that out, just to give myself a little bit more ease in that cap. But this might be fine. I mean, this might be exactly what my body needs. So that's how you do a petite adjustment. Again, do a muslin to check to make sure that everything is fitting okay. But this adjustment works on both knit patterns and on woven patterns. Now, knit patterns can be a little different just because you don't typically have a dart to determine if your body is where it's supposed to be, because knit stretches and it gives a lot. So, you know, if you have armholes that are just hanging down real low, a lot of times that's an indication of you need a petite adjustment. But just try playing around with it. You know, pull up the shirt at that point and just see if things fit better. And then that's how you know if you need the petite adjustment. So if you've got a shorter torso, or if you're just short in general, short everywhere, you could even have a long torso and be petite and still need a petite adjustment. But yeah, that's how you do a petite adjustment. As always, leave any comments or questions you have down below in the comments, and I will answer those as quickly as possible. Have a good one, guys. Okay, here we go. All fixed. Everything is fitting so much better. And this is just muslin. I mean, I did stay stitch the neckline just to be sure. Yeah, this bodice fits so much better. So there you have it. That is 1 inch removed. Technically, I could probably take the shoulders in about 3/8 of an inch to have them sitting exactly on top of my shoulders. But I'm not, you know, I don't think it looks too bad. It's almost right there where it should be. So I'm going to leave that. My darts are still need a little fussing with, which is typical because I have big bust. So I typically have to like fuss with my darts a little bit. But yeah, look how much better that fits in through here. My natural waist is right here, right at about 5/8 of an inch above this line. So if I were to tuck that in, that'd be right at my natural waist. So when I add the skirt, it should, actually when I add the skirt, it'll probably pull it just, you know, taut just a little bit because of the weight of that skirt. Yeah, and it's fitting right where it should on the back and everything. I've got movement which is a lot, saying a lot for anything with a woven with a sleeve. So I'm feeling really good about that too. So other than the darts, which this is a muslin, I'm not worried about those. Yeah, the petite adjustment worked. So there we go.